I'm going to tell you a story today, and it goes to the heart of my language philosophy, why I learn the way I do and why I teach the way I do. So picture this. There's a fictitious planet. It's called Floobenflahter. And this person or being from the planet Floobenflahter flies through space and arrives on Earth. And the first thing that this Floobenflahter happens to him, he gets greeted with a cup of delicious Japanese green tea. Now, as he sips it, this is fantastic. This Japanese green tea is the most fantastic, the most delicious tea that I've ever had in my life. Now, on Floobenflahter, they have tea. On Floobenflahter, they have water. Tea is red, water is red. So what's the difference? Well, on Floobenflahter, tea and water have different purposes. Water is your usual everyday drink, while tea is only taken for medicinal purposes. That means if you're sick, you drink tea. Otherwise, you drink water. There's no difference in the taste, and there's no difference in the color. Now, as the Floobenflahter drinks down this Japanese green tea, he's thinking, I've got it. My mission in life now is to go back to the planet Floobenflahter and find the source of green water. Only then can I make green tea. So what can we get out of this analogy? Well, it wasn't the green water that made the green tea. So it's that mind shift that's looking, what does he actually have to find? Maybe he just has to find some plain water and some tea to make the green tea rather than the source of red water. This is the same as when we're learning a language. When people go and learn Thai, they think, oh, in Thai there are 46 letters, consonants in the alphabet, and they start comparing, throwing these numbers at you, or at themselves, and they defeat themselves before they even start because they're comparing things that really shouldn't be compared. Now, what sounds harder? Oh, Thai has 46 letters, consonants in the alphabet and 20-something vowels, and we have to learn all of those before you can write, and they're all different. That's going to defeat you. But what if I said, the Thai alphabet is based on the Indic sound system, which is a Brahmic system, and it's actually a map of the human mouth. So it's so easy. Wherever that letter is, you can find where it is in the alphabet, right where it is in the mouth, starting from the back to the front of your mouth. So you don't even have to remember an order of the letters. All you have to picture is a shape of the mouth. Now that sounds a lot easier, doesn't it? That's because we're not comparing apples with oranges, or we're not comparing green tea with red tea. Now, how does that get applied to learning languages? Well, sometimes it's easier to learn a language through another language. I'll give you an example. This is one of my favorite language learning books. It's very well written. เรียนรู้ภาษาพม่า Learning Burmese. Now you'll notice that this Learn Burmese book is in Thai. Now I have several books that are written in English teaching Burmese, and it goes and it struggles to communicate concepts. But if you speak Thai already and you look at some concepts in here, you can see as I go through, actually, as I learn the language, I use Chinese, I use Thai, anything that I can. But this one talks about particles in Burmese, and this is the particle la. Now, la in Burmese is like a tag ending. So, pyoda la, can you speak la? Which means can you speak it or not? In Thai, la is actually, you could put it as a rutlao, or in spoken Thai, pa, chai pa, is it or not? Is it or not? Chai pa. So this is the same thing as the la particle. Now it's so much easier now as I read it in Thai just to substitute those particles or learn those particles through Thai rather than trying to fit it in to my English logic. Other languages that I learned that I found useful books not in English. Here's one, learning Urdu. Urdu through Chinese, and I picked this book up in Beijing, and it's actually very well written. The only catch is you have to speak Chinese to be able to learn it. I've got these learn Lao books in Chinese, and the thing I like about Chinese learn language books is the linguistics are really solid, and they really go into things that I don't often find in some of the English books that teach the language. Now there are some here if learning in Japanese. So this is Shimbun. This is learning Japanese newspaper language, but it's all through Thai. Now, you can see that there are some fantastic activities in there and sample of language, but I wouldn't have been able to access it if I didn't speak Thai. And there are some concepts in there. And then lastly, I have this one, even Javanese, a cultural approach. And even though there are many political things about Javanese and not wanting to compare it to Indonesian, but it's actually a lot easier to learn Javanese through a mixture of Indonesian and then as you learn other regional languages rather than going straight through English. But this book teaches you Javanese through both. You have the English here, and you also have some comparisons and comparative language with the standard Bahasa Indonesia. So, comparing apples with oranges. Sometimes you need to get maybe different types of apples to compare together rather than trying to compare it to the orange which is the only thing you know. Remember the Floobenflahter analogy. Remember, when you're learning a language, don't try and compare green tea with red tea. Sometimes it's just different. And once you start learning more languages, you can escape those boundaries of your mother tongue and start using the things in those other languages to facilitate learning another language much more easily.